Hi, Divan.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Perfect. Just checking your sound's coming through there really nicely. We've got a couple more seconds.
No, perfect. Because it's background noise, and that is not an issue at this. You can't hear in the back.
Fantastic. Great. Alrighty. So I think we can kick off. I see we've got a few people online. So firstly, I'd just like to welcome everybody to the Virtual African Bird Fair. Thank you all so much for coming to this absolutely incredible event. And I'm sure you'll all agree with me that this really is a first for the birding community in South Africa and the world, being able to come here to Africa and see just what the African birding scene has to offer. And if you've had a chance to go and peruse some of the exhibition booths, as well as watching some of the amazing presentations that have been taking place, this really has been an event to remember. So thanks to everyone for participating. And a big thank you to Divan and ZEISS for joining us today to chat about optics and the amazing optics gear that ZEISS has on offer. Now, I need to really say thank you to ZEISS, because my conservation team at BirdLife South Africa is very kindly sponsored with our optics through ZEISS. And I must say, having been to the tops of the Blyde River Canyon trying to spot the very elusive and tiny Tiger falcon using your incredible scope, it makes such a difference to have that state-of-the-art equipment. So from me and the conservation division, a huge thank you to ZEISS for your support of our organization. It really does help us to give conservation wings and protect our birds. And I also want to say thank you for bringing ZEISS on board as a Conservation Conversations partner. That's our weekly webinar series that we've been running, and ZEISS has very kindly sponsored prizes for some of our viewers. And the very first prize winner actually received her prize yesterday and is thrilled and is really looking forward to using all of that amazing cleaning gear that you guys have provided. So Divan, thank you so much for joining me. And if you'd like to say a few words before we get into it, please go for it now.
No, well, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and obviously it's nice to be able to be part of the conservation part. Although we're not always there to do the footwork and actually be on ground, we try to support in other ways. But we can go to the discussion if you have some questions.
Super, I do. And just for everyone listening, please feel free to type your questions into that chat feed on the Virtual African Bird Fair platform. I'll be able to see them coming through if anything does pop up. But kicking us off first, Divan, I'd like to ask you, why are binoculars so important for birding?
One thing that's critical, obviously, if something is 5 or 10 meters from you, or maybe further, you need to see detail to be able to identify them. So optics assist you in that matter, that you can see detail, see where there's different colors, size, beak colors, all of that. So you do need optics to be able to spot the difference and have a positive identification.
Absolutely. And if we start talking about the types of binoculars that are out there, I know we've got the roof and the poro. Can you explain a little bit more about the differences between these types of binoculars?
Easiest to, this in my hand is a roof prism, which is basically the same as, well, most of the binoculars these days will be roof prism. Poro prism was where it started. Biggest difference that you have between the two is, if you take an old poro prism unit and you adjust your focus wheel, your eyepieces will move in and out to actually focus the binocular. And what that means is, inside there's actually volume changing, so it sucks in air and it pushes out air, which causes dust to be able to go in there. With a roof prism like this, it's a sealed unit, so the focusing is happening on the inside. So they can seal the unit, they can put nitrogen inside or argon gas, so that helps it to not fog up, can't have any moisture inside, can't get dust inside. So if you have a binocular like this and you actually have dust or moisture or anything inside, it means there's a seal that got broke and it needs to be serviced. So that's the main difference between the two. A roof prism is more compact, more lightweight. Poros was a bit bulky. So it's just where binoculars started, and it moved over to roof prism as technology advanced.
Fantastic. And I know those of us who bird here in Africa will know this is a rather dusty continent. So it's great to hear that the technology's moved forward, and trying to mitigate that dust getting into our devices is so key. So
yeah, almost any roof prism binocular will be a waterproof sealed unit.
Brilliant.
Oh, but I mean, there's different brands.
Absolutely. And I see I've also got my binoculars with me today. And on the bottom here, there's some numbers. So anyone who's in the market looking to try and buy some binoculars or trying to understand what those numbers are all about. I know we've got 8x42s and 10x20s and all sorts of things. Would you mind just elaborating a bit on what those numbers are all about, please?
Yeah, to quickly break that up, as you mentioned, there's 10s, there's 8s, which is the more common magnifications. So the first part will give the magnification. So if it's an 8, it will magnify something 8 times, or it will bring it 8 times closer, which is exactly the same thing. It just, you explain it different. The second part, which is the by 32 or the by 42, will be the lens diameter in front. So 42 is a bigger eyepiece, front objective, 32 smaller, and then you get 25s, which is normally in the pocket binoculars. The smaller it is, the lighter the binocular is going to be. The bigger it is, there's obviously more glass, it's going to be a bit heavier. But the light that gets to your eye, anybody has looked at a binocular trying to move it, it makes an exit pupil here. It's a small piece of light coming through. So the size of that gets determined by the front objective, 42 or a 32, divided by the magnification. So a 42 divided by 10 will have a 4.2 millimeter exit pupil coming, available light for your eyes to work with. If it's 25 in front and you divide it by 10, it's 2.5 millimeters. So if you do it during the day and there's abundance of sunlight, it's not going to make a difference. If somebody is doing birding dusk or dawn, then a bigger binocular is going to have more light coming through to your eye to be able to use it, where a smaller binocular is going to be limited to that. But if it's somebody hiking, he's going to prefer having a very lightweight binocular, and he's probably going to hike during the day. He's not going to hike at night. So then the light is not as critical. So the first number is just the magnification of the binocular, and the second part gives you the diameter of the lens in front. Different magnifications has different applications. Obviously, the bigger the magnification, the closer it brings the image that you look at, but your field of view is much more narrower. So there's a bit more detail on the specific thing you look at, but your left and right on your field of view is very limited. On an 8 by magnification, you have a bigger field of view if you compare the exact same binocular. So you see more, although it's only magnified 8 times, but you see more image. So if there's a bird moving around in a tree, or you're busy following a few vultures in a thermal or such, it's easier to see them than just have a narrow field of view. Like a spotting scope will have a very narrow field of view because it magnifies the image a lot for detail, but you lose field of view there.
Absolutely. And I know those of you listening who might be joining us on the Flock at Sea cruise next year or the year after, I think it's been postponed. It's one of those things where it's such a trade-off because you want to see those seabirds nice and close, but obviously you're on a moving ship, the birds are moving. So having that slightly wider field of view is so critical for being able to stay on that bird. I know when we went on the last Flock at Sea, I've got 10s and my partner uses 8s. And it was much easier for them to stay on the birds with the 8s than it was for me to stay on them with the 10s. So you've got to kind of take into account what conditions you're going to be birding in when you're trying to buy those binoculars. It really does make a difference versus birding in a forest where the birds are often a lot more closed in and you can get a lot closer to them, but then you need that light because forests are such dark environments. So it's wonderful that you can unpack those complexities of the numbers to us. And thank you for that. I think you did a great job of kind of indicating what we need to look for in the binoculars that we're trying to buy. Now, I know some binoculars have this amazing close focusing capability. So would this be useful from a birding perspective, but maybe more so for butterflies, for example? Could you unpack that close focusing mechanism a bit for us, please?
Yeah, all the top end binoculars, if you have a look at a ZEISS SF or your Swarovski EL, most of them will have a close focus of about 1.6 to 2 meters, will normally be below 2 meters. And the main reason, as you mentioned, there's birding is one thing. There's some people using it on butterflies or other insects. So they just need to have detail within 1.5 meters. They can't just work on 4 and 5 meters, especially like you mentioned in the forest. You sometimes actually have something that's within 2 meters with you, and it's so thick that you need to be able to focus on that. And you'll see if you have a look at the binoculars, the more expensive the binoculars, they normally have a 1.5 to a 1.8 meter, and then as the price comes down, the close focus increases to about 3 meters, 3.5 meters. So I think for an average person just using his binoculars twice or 3 times a month, it's not really necessary to pay for it. But there is an advantage if it's somebody actually doing it for a living or specializing in it, because it makes a difference.
Absolutely. And I must say, with my new side hobby of getting into dragonflies, that close focusing on my ZEISS conquests has really helped a lot. And it does make a massive difference getting to really see those small details of those dragonflies up close. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that feature. Now we've got a question in the chat room, so I'm going to divert a little bit. But Robert Whitecross is asking, please explain what differentiates the optics when it gets to low light enhancement. Is it better quality glass coating, or is it lens diameter that is the most important?
All of that is going to be all of them is going to have a factor involved in that. So one is obviously going to be the lens quality. If it's ED glass that's been used, HD glass, UFL glass, so the type of quality of glass is going to have an effect on the color aberration. The higher quality, the better the image quality is going to stay. So if there's a bird where the green goes over to red, you will be on the UFL lenses, you'll be able to actually see the difference where that changes. On a bit cheaper or entry-level binocular, I won't say it's going to blur, but it's going to look like it flows into each other, where on some things you won't be able to actually positively identify. So lens quality, definitely. Then lens coatings. Each company spends a lot of time and money on developing their own coatings. So all of them will have access to buy ED glass or buy HD glass. And then from there, it gets determined what they put coating-wise on those lenses. So ZEISS we will have our coatings that we use, the T-Star coating, which is a multi-coating. Swarovski will have their coatings that they're using, and so all the brands will have different coatings on that. On ours, it's standard, the T-Star coating for all our optics. And then the third one you ask is about the lens in front. A bigger lens in front with a smaller magnification is going to give you better image quality in the sense of available light for your eye to use. But if you take a top end by 32 binocular and you take a really entry level by 42 binocular, that 32 is still going to outperform it in low light conditions. But if you take the exact same binocular and you have a 32 and a 42 comparing it with each other, the 42 is going to give you a brighter image for longer. If it's in the middle of the day, 12 o'clock, and there's an abundance of sunlight, it's going to look the same.
Fantastic. Now, you're mentioning some of the other brands out there. What really is brand loyalty all about? Why do some people prefer different brands of binoculars and optics equipment? And do you find that people tend to find a brand that they really enjoy and stick with it, or do they shop around quite a bit?
People investing in the top-end brands normally becomes part of the lifestyle as well. So if they inherited a pair of ZEISS binoculars and they treated them well, they will always stay with ZEISS. Same with the other brands. But brand loyalty is going to be like vehicles. If there's people sitting around a fire, half of them is going to be Hilux guys, there's going to be Ranger guys, there's going to be Land Rover guys, and all of them is going to have an opinion why his is best or better. So obviously we trust our brand. I will never say there's only one brand. There is good brands out there. But yeah, if people, I think, like to buy into a lifestyle, and they also reliability. People want to, if they spend their money, they want to know this is going to be for 10 years or 20 years or whatever. They don't want to worry about it after a few months.
Absolutely. And I know your slogan is seeing beyond, and I absolutely love that about your company, because I really do feel like you guys do see beyond and strive to bring that high quality. Now, we've got a question from Andy Baker in the chat room, and he's saying, you've just spoken about the kind of different brand loyalties, but within ZEISS, can you elaborate a little bit more on Conquest versus Victory and what the big differences are there within your different products?
Okay. Main differences, first is going to be Conquest is going to have HD lenses in it, where the Victory SF, they use UFL lenses, which is the top quality of glass that's available. The Conquest will have an aluminium body, which is strong, but it's a bit more heavy, where the Victory SF will have a magnesium body, which has the same strength, is just much lighter. The other advantage of the SF, much closer focus. So it's 1.6 meters that you can actually close focus, where the Conquest is just over 2 meters. And then you also have the open bridge on your SF, which is a comfortable handle versus your Conquest. So the Conquest, for its price, is an amazing pair of binoculars. But if somebody wants to buy the best that's available, there is a difference between the two, and the things that I've mentioned is the main things. On the SF, you have the focus. It's 1.8 turns on the 10x42 from your closest distance till your furthest distance, where there's an advantage on that. Again, if you're looking at birds in a thermal, as they move up and down, it's easier to quickly get them in and out of focus as they move up and down, or a bird flying around in a tree close by.
Absolutely. And we've got a comment here from Andy Branfield saying that he's had his ZEISS bins, they're old 10x40Bs, for over 30 years, and they really still serve him well. So that's just a testament to your amazing product that ZEISS puts out there. So thanks for sharing that with us, Andy. Now, Divan, when people are starting to consider buying their binoculars, are there some other factors that they really need to start looking at? I know we've touched a little bit on budget and lens coating and that kind of thing, but does it come with a bag? Does it come with a strap? Should they go harness? Should they go neck strap? What are some of the factors that people should be looking into when they're looking to try and get the right kind of binoculars for them?
Yeah. I always told people when I were in the retail trade, where you actually do counter sales with the people, try and buy the best optics that you can afford. That's going to be determined by each person on his own. A salesperson won't be able to tell him that. But there is an advantage on investing in optics, and the better optics you buy, the longer you're going to use the product. So firstly, there's different brands, and each brand will be able to tell you why these is different to the other, what gives you advantage above the other, and price points. All of the binoculars, our complete range, and I'm sure most of the others will have a binocular bag that comes with it. It will come with a neck strap and some flip-up covers, which normally protect your lenses. An advantage of a bino harness, it's something that you need to buy separately, but it moves the weight to your back and your chest and away from your neck. So if it's somebody sitting in a vehicle, driving through Kruger National Park, doing birding or game viewing, it doesn't matter, it can lie on his lap or whatever. But if it's somebody hiking or spending 7 hours a day in the bush, a harness is going to definitely take away the strain from his neck. Then you ask about other things to look at when you buy. Just kind of lost my thought process now.
So looking at warranties and that sort of thing.
Okay, so warranties, all the European products will have a 10-year warranty. You do get lifetime guarantees from some products coming from US, some products coming from Japan will have a lifetime warranty, but anything sold by a European company will have a maximum of a 10-year warranty. I know 40 and 50 years ago, some of the companies from Europe also had lifetime guarantees. It's not available anymore. The reason being is, there you heard about a binocular that's 30 years or 40 years old. Some of our binoculars comes from 1920 and 1930. To try and be able to replace parts on that is going to be semi-impossible 80 or 90 years later. So that's the EU changed it over to 10 years. So warranty is something to look at. Backup service. Is it a company that's available in South Africa? If you buy something, is there somebody you can talk to? Is there somebody looking after you when you actually have a problem? All of these things are just made by people. So there can be problems with anything. Then it depends on how the backup is going to be on it. And yeah, as I said, the better optics you can buy, it's going to be an advantage for you on the longer run. It's easy on your eyes. You can use it for longer. There's really a difference.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, when they're buying their binoculars, I mean, this is something you're investing in for at least 10, 15, maybe 30 years, as Andy showed us. So yeah, it's really worth trying to save up and buy the best that you can. Now, yeah, I know with our, oh, sorry, Divan, go for it.
No, sorry. One thing why we always compare to vehicles, because most people can actually relate to that. All cars can take you from point A to B. All of them is going to do the same thing if that's the only need you have. But there is a difference in doing it in the top end Mercedes or the top end Audi or whatever, or doing it in a bicycle. A top-end binocular is going to make it nicer for you. There's better optics. It's going to be less strainers on your eyes. You're going to enjoy it more. There's better detail. It's going to last longer. But at the end, yes, you can use any pair of binocular to actually do birding. You don't need to buy the most expensive thing there is before you can actually be part of it or enjoy it.
Absolutely. Now, I know with the webinars, you guys have sponsored some absolutely amazing cleaning gear. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about some of ZEISS's fantastic cleaning products that they sell to try and keep your optics gear in tip-top shape?
The two main products we have, the one is lens wipes. You probably use it with your spectacles, but people use it on camera lenses, they use it on the binoculars, and once you've actually cleaned your binoculars or your spectacles, you can clean your phone with it as well. Then we have a complete box with a cleaning kit in it. Inside this box, I'm going to call it a pump, but there's an air pump just to blow off all dust from your lenses before you do anything with it. Then you have a small brush where you can also remove particles and that. So by the time all the dust and sand is off the lenses, then you only start with using lens wipes and that. So that's the cleaning equipment that we have. So that caring for binoculars, people should preferably not take a t-shirt and just wipe his lenses off. Although you won't see the scratches, with time you are going to scratch it because there's sand and dust in your shirt. So try to use the correct cleaning equipment for your lenses. The better you look after it, the longer your lenses is going to look like you got it the first day. You can rinse all of our binoculars underwater. So if your binocular dropped in the sand or so, before you try to rub on anything, just rinse it under tap water. You will get off most of the actual big particles, which will be able to scratch your lens before you start wiping on it.
Great. And we've got a question in the chat room from Anne Arons, and she's asking, you mentioned binocular servicing. How often should someone service their binoculars?
I will only send a pair of binoculars in for service if there's something bothering me. So if my image is still perfect and there's no dust or anything on the inside, I will not send it in to be serviced. Each time it gets opened, it's an opportunity for somebody to move a lens or do this or that, and then you need to actually have it repaired. So if there's nothing bothering, I will not open it up.
That's a good strategy to have, I think. But we've been chatting a lot about some of the products that ZEISS has. Do you want to give us a bit of an overview of your full optics range? And then I'm sure people will ask a couple more questions as you go through some of these products.
Yes, I will. I'll do a short talk, but we have on our ZEISS link at the bottom, there's a product overview as well, where people can see exactly what is available. But our binocular range starts with our Terra range. In the Terra range, we'll have pockets in a 10-25, 8-25, and then we'll have the compacts in the 32, and we'll have the standards at the by 42. After the Terra range, it jumps to the Conquest HD. There we don't have pockets. We only have the compacts, which will be a 32 or by 32 binocular and by 42. You can order by 56, but it becomes a very big binocular, and it's more for the European conditions where there's really poor light, and they use it at night as well for different applications. Then you have the SF, which is our top-end binocular for birding, and there you will have a 1042 and an 842. We did launch the by 32 at the UK Bird Fair this year, but it will only be available for South Africa around about November, December. This is actually one of the samples for the 32s. So it's just a compact version of the 42 with some small changes, but it's same glass, same magnesium body, and that there's just changes on field of view and all of that. We also have a HT, which is more for low light use. So again, there's not a lot of that coming to South Africa because it's a specialized thing for low light conditions. And then we have the spotting scopes. In our spotting scopes, we have the Conquest Gavia, which is a mid-range spotting scope, and it comes complete with the eyepiece and everything. And our top end is our Victory Harpia, where you buy the body in an 85 or a 95 objective and then an eyepiece. But that's really an amazing piece of equipment.
Absolutely.
So For the optics, sorry, for the...
No, carry on.
There's then binocular harnesses, there's the cleaning kits like we mentioned earlier, and any accessories. If you lose a neck strip or you lose eyepieces or whatever, we can assist with any of that on the binoculars.
Fantastic. Now, I'm not seeing too many other questions coming into the chat feed, but please, everybody who is tuning in, do let us know if you have any more questions for Divan or myself. But I know, Divan, if I were to sort of say your terror range is pretty much for the entry-level birder who's relatively serious at birding and wants to now take the next step to getting a decent startup pair of binoculars, that terror range is going to be where they probably pitch their tent. And moving into the conquest is going to be your slightly more serious birders, someone who's maybe willing to drop $5,000 on a ticket to go and twitch a rare bird somewhere. And then moving up into your victories, those are your really, really hardcore birders that are going to go on international bird tours and really happy to spend a lot of money on their hobby. Yes. Or career.
Yeah. That's a good split up. But again, if somebody can afford a conquest, even if he's starting as a birder, on the long run, it's going to be an advantage to him, because he's going to buy, and then after 1 or 2 years, he's going to feel, but I do want a bit more, because all of us, the more you get involved, eventually you do want to upgrade. So if you committed the first time, it helps you.
Absolutely. I always feel that way about my camera equipment. You're always wanting that slightly bigger lens, slightly faster body. But
definitely.
Yeah.
I think optics is one of the things. Obviously, you need to look that something's not overpriced, but optics, normally you get what you pay for. You can see it in cameras, you can see it in binoculars, you can see it in any of. There is an advantage in the more expensive things. You just need to determine what your need is and say, but I don't need that speed on the camera lens, or I don't need the 1.6 meter focus for my application. That is not necessary. But there is a difference on the.
Absolutely. And as someone who really enjoys my Conquest 10x42s, I have absolutely loved what ZEISS has brought to my birding. And I'm very, very grateful to you guys for sponsoring myself and the rest of the BirdLife team. And obviously using your incredible spotting scope. It's unbelievable. What I often do is do some digi-scoping, where you put your phone onto the top of the scope and you can capture videos and all sorts of stuff. I was tracking some secretary birds across the grasslands not too long ago, and just watching that bird through the scope is unbelievable, the quality that your optics bring to visuals. So thank you to ZEISS. I'm not seeing any more major questions coming through. So I think, Divan, we probably are good. I'm going to give everyone just another 2 minutes to pop through any last minute questions that they'd like to ask us. But here's one. Okay, another one from Robert saying, if binoculars get dropped, how do you do a simple test to see if your prisms have moved? That's quite an important question. We all know accidents do happen.
Yes, if a prism moved, you will have a double vision. So if you pick up the binoculars and you focus it on something, try to focus on detail. And if you pick up that you can't get the two images, it's just your eyes can't get one image looking great, then you know the prisms that move. While talking about that, I think there's a lot of people actually not setting up the binoculars correctly when they pick it up for the first time, because you can adjust the difference between your two eyes on every binocular. Some will adjust here in the middle, some will be adjust on the right eyepiece. Pockets will adjust in the front, but there will always be a possibility to adjust the difference between your two eyes, which is critical. Otherwise, you're never going to have a crisp image actually when you look at things. So if somebody just hands you a pair of binoculars and you don't set it up, it can be the most expensive thing that's available, and you can still feel, I get a blurred image, don't get that crisp image. So setting up a binoculars is very critical. I don't know, maybe I should explain how to quickly set it up if it's okay.
Yes, please do. I was about to ask you about that, so you read my mind. Yeah. Please show everyone the best way to do it.
So what you'll do with your binoculars, probably stand outside because you'll use it outside most. You look at something specific. Doesn't matter what distance, it can be 50 meters, 60 meters. Just look at something, a little bit of detail. You pick your binocular up, you close your right eye, and you only look through the binocular of your left eye, and you adjust the big focus wheel till that image is crisp for your left eye. Then you close your left eye and you have a look through your binocular with your right eye at the exact same image. While looking at that exact same thing on that distance, you adjust the ocular adjustment of the binocular. It will either be in the middle or on the right eyepiece. Then you adjust the right eyepiece that it's 100% in focus on that same image. From there, you lock it, because then you've adjusted the difference between your two eyes. If you then adjust your focus wheel, that will stay calibrated for all the distances.
Fantastic. And that's so important to be able to get your binoculars absolutely right. Everybody's eyes are different. And so that's such a wonderful feature that you can adjust them however you need them to be for your individual use. Yeah. Thanks, Divan, for sharing that. Gizzy's asked a really nice question. Gizzy's one of our very loyal volunteers at BirdLife South Africa, and we are really grateful to her for all of her support over the years. But Gizzy is very lucky enough to do a lot of traveling, and she's asking, she obviously doesn't want to travel without her binoculars when she's going. Would you say it's worth getting a slightly lighter or compact pair and trading off some of the magnification? What's a good set of binoculars to consider if you are someone who's on the road or in the air quite a lot?
I know Mark, for example, got himself a pocket. So if he moved around for certain meetings or whatever, he at least has a pocket in his laptop bag or whatever. If you can still do a little bit of birding. That's going to also depend on, do you travel to actually go and do some birding, or is it business travel, or is it for whatever reason you travel? So having one pair, I'll probably go for something like a by 32, 8 or a 10 by 32, having a compact set. It's easy to put in a bag. It's easy to do everything you want to do with it, and you can hike with it. If she travels to do example, business meeting or work abroad, but she just wants a pair of binoculars. If she stays at a hotel and there's something she wants to look at, a pocket is going to be fine. But if you want to spend 3-4 hours a day using it when you're there, I'd rather go for a compact by 32 than a really small pocket.
Thanks. Yeah, and I see Mark is actually tuned in, and he says they are permanently in his bag. Nice to know that he can go birding anytime. Thanks for joining us, Mark. We've got a question from Ian Hardy, and this is also a really important question. I'm busy wearing some spectacles at the moment, but if you're someone who does happen to wear glasses, how do you use your binoculars and account for the fact that you now have this extra lens in front of your eyes?
Yeah, so what happens on a binocular, eyepieces can be adjusted, turned out and in. What that does, it gives you eye relief. Your eyes need to be about 12 to 15 millimeters from the binocular to give you a full image. So if you have glasses, your glasses is already 12 or 13 mils from your eyes. So the eye relief is already there. So you can't turn this out and have double the eye relief. So with glasses, you normally turn it in. So you can put this against your glasses in front of your face. If you are somebody that does not need glasses, you just turn out the eyepieces to give yourself eye relief. So your eyebrows just pushes it against the eye cups. There's not a specific right and wrong for it. Some people with glasses will maybe still take his binocular and turn it out a little bit because he needs that specific eye relief before he gets a full image in his binocular. But you want one circle when you look through your binocular. You don't want a figure of, well, not a figure of 8, but it mustn't look like two eyepieces. It must be one image that you see.
Absolutely. I think we've really unpacked a lot of the intricacies of optics equipment today, and I've certainly learned a lot. So thank you so much, Divan, for sharing all of that amazing information with us. I'm not seeing any more major questions coming through. Just a couple of comments and chats. Thanks everyone for sharing your stories about your ZEISS experiences with us. I'm sure Divan will go and have a look at those after the talk and just appreciate some of the really good feedback people are providing to ZEISS and their thanks and comments for your amazing optics. From me, Divan, I'd just like to say a huge thank you. ZEISS is one of our major sponsors here at the fair today, and they're also a major sponsor of our organization and our conservation work. So a big, big thank you from all of us at BirdLife South Africa for the ongoing support and for sharing all of your amazing knowledge on these incredible products. And I really do encourage everybody at the fair today, if you haven't had a look at ZEISS's booth yet, please go and have a look. And you can always buy your ZEISS products through BirdLife South Africa, and we do actually benefit if you do buy your optics through us. So please consider, if you are going to buy ZEISS optics, to hop on over to our BirdLife South Africa shop and you can get your pair of ZEISS binoculars through us, and that way support both of our organizations. So Divan, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time and your skills and your knowledge, and I hope everyone who tuned into this live session learned a little bit more about the amazing world of optics with ZEISS. Thanks, Divan.
Oh, thanks a lot for the opportunity. And you mentioned the online store for BirdLife. If somebody buys a pair of ZEISS binoculars through the Bird Fair, he gets free annual membership with BirdLife. So if it's a new member, it gets paid, and if he's already there, it's just a renewal for another 12 months. So there is advantage doing it today and not waiting till Monday.
Yes, absolutely. That's a wonderful offer, and thank you so much for that. It's an amazing organization, in my totally biased opinion, to be a member of, and I really hope that all of you attending the fair who are not yet members of BirdLife South Africa will really hop on over to our membership tab. It's on the left-hand side on your main platform guide. Become a member. It's not expensive, and you get a whole lot of interesting things for it. Also our African BirdLife magazine, and access to a range of other exciting events such as the one you're currently attending. So thank you, Divan, thank you, ZEISS, and thank you to all of you for attending this session. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on some of the other presentations. Enjoy the rest of the bird fair, everyone. Cheers for now.
So, thank you, bye-bye.